Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. All Katie Hobbs knows how to do you run and hide hope that security guards are right or Republican. So the corrupt legacy media stand between her and the truth? But alas, the truth is we're catching up to you, doesn't it? And we're gonna take a look at the latest on Kari Lake's ongoing lawsuit against Hobbs. We're gonna see the latest polls that are huge for Kari Lake in the US Senate. The Kari Lake team has announced that they have shocking new evidence that they'll bring before the court in the hearing next week. The Gateway Pundit reported a couple of weeks back that the Arizona Court of Appeals has agreed that Kari Lake's election lawsuits should be expedited, scheduling a conference and possible oral arguments on February 1st, and Kari Lake's team is promising what they're calling shocking and earth-shattering evidence that has since been uncovered. Remember, there's been a number of whistleblowers that have been coming forth over the last few months, and you only need one with hard ironclad, irrefutable evidence to come forward. And they may have found it. Here's Kari Lake. Everyone listen to this. Well, I think the new information that came out earlier this week where they are taking the case on the merits. This isn't just a they didn't have to take the case. They could have said we're actually not going to take the case. And they said actually, we looked at it and we're taking the case. And so Tuesday the defense has to file their brief. And then we have until the 24th to file a rebuttal, I guess you could say, and then the 3-panel judge panel will take a look at it and make a decision. We are still going to push to get this into the Arizona Supreme Court. It's going to end up there. Ultimately, we'd like to see it go there sooner rather than later. We don't want to have this cartel operative, this cartel-owned goon Katie Hobbs sitting in the governor's office. Our state government is controlled by the cartels right now. The Secretary of State Adrian Fontes is a cartel attorney. And the cartels completely control Arizona. And that's not what the people voted for. We know they stole the election. We know they had intentionally sabotaged Election Day. And we prove that in court, and we will continue to prove it. We have more evidence coming forth. Okay, folks. Now I have to say that I find all of this very fascinating because Kari Lake could easily throw in the towel here and move on to the next phase of her political career, which is clearly the US Senate. We now have another poll that shows Kari Lake with a very comfortable lead in a 3-way Senate race in Arizona, of course, the current Senator Kyrsten Sinema. She left the Democratic Party recently, she became an independent, she will be challenged by a Democrat for that seat. And so in a 3-way race with the center-left and radical woke left split. Kari's got this. But no, she's determined to follow through with her promise that she would not allow what happened in November to stand. And I have to say that that's an amazing testimony to Kari Lake's character. She's under pressure, right, certainly by the Republican establishment both nationally and in Arizona to just throw in the towel in all this. But it's clear that she's determined to see this through, as she said, if necessary, all the way to the US Supreme Court. Now obviously, we'll have to wait to see what this new evidence is and how it's going to play out, but either way, with the left killing themselves in this upcoming Senate race, Kari has several options for her political future, fully acknowledging that as far as she's concerned, there's only one, and that's to stop Katie Hobbs, but Kari is not alone. There appears to be a massive groundswell of support to do just that. It looks like the effort to end Katie Hobbs' tenure as governor is growing by the day. Unfortunately for Katie AHBs, Republicans control both legislative chambers in Arizona, and so there's already a Twitter campaign to pressure Republicans to call a special session, do their own investigation to the Election Day shenanigans back in November, impeach Hobbs and throw her out of office. Now admittedly, that is a very tall order given the amount of rhinos that dominate the Arizona Republican Party. Remember, Republican governor and leading rhino Doug Ducey completely ignored and discounted any hint of impropriety on Election Day and was one of the first to congratulate Hobbs on her so-called when it was so nauseating. So full impeachment is a tall order indeed for such feckless rhino Republicans who worked together with Democrats to make sure that any and all MAGA candidates were defeated in November, so we're not getting anywhere with them. Instead, our hopes are most likely to be realized with the mass recall effort to get rid of Katie Hobbs that's already underway. Now, according to Arizona law, after the governor has served for 6 months, a recall petition can be submitted, which has to include a certain amount of signatures in relation to the total number of voters in the last election. Well, those efforts at amassing such signatures have already begun. An organization called Arizona Citizens has begun the process of collecting over 600,000 signatures to recall Hobbs as soon as legally possible. You know, again, the irony to all of this is that if the process by which Hobbs assumed office was suspect, she herself has inescapably undermined the legitimacy of her own administration. In literally every single respect, Katie Hobbs has completely undermined any shred of legitimacy for her tenure. And so the very fact that recall efforts have already begun. And again, they're all over Twitter at this point. The very fact that serious recall efforts are already underway, not even 6 months in her governorship, is a foreshadow of what she can expect for the foreseeable future. So obviously, we'll be keeping our eyes on how things develop here, but there's no question Kari Lake is absolutely determined to see this through and all the way, all the while millions of Arizonans are ready to recall. This is going to be good. And next news, the most powerful and influential person, the Democratic Party, is former President Obama. The fact that nobody pays attention to this is very bizarre to me. When Clinton had private servers, siphoning top-secret intel out of the Pentagon and other government agencies, in placing them and transferring them onto servers outside the US government, the fact that people truly believed that President Obama didn't know of this is just very bizarre. Okay. There's even an email that I wrote about. I wrote an article in Daily Caller. There's one email stating that yes, the president's new but is the most powerful person in the Democratic Party, 8 years, 2 terms, one of the most, perhaps the most popular Democrat along with JFK of all time. Well, FDR, JFK, one of the most, I think he's actually the most popular Democratic president. President Obama's. I don't understand how nobody sees what's going on with the classified data. That's the special counsel and Biden's presidency collapsing. CBS News. There's an attorney representing Biden in the classified data scandal, but he served as President Obama's White House counsel. But then you have the president was not encouraging Politico. You believe this? You know what Biden's complicated friendship? Politico with President Obama 10 minutes apart, but rarely together. The Hill. The Obamas visit White House on Wednesday. Tensions linger. Washington Post. Independent. Obama was furious at Biden. He doesn't. President Obama does not like Joe Biden, or I should say, doesn't have a friendship with him. Really? It was a marriage of convenience. Okay. Biden represented. Biden was a more amiable, Mike Pence, actually a more loyal and amiable Mike Pence. You could kind of say, maybe that's not the best analogy, a correlation, but example, but they don't have here. Time new book reveals Obama and Biden never had a real friendship. Okay, so they never really had a close alliance. It was a convenience. It was a President Obama picked a lifelong Democrat who was a senator since the late 70s, who was friends with everybody. A lot of Republicans, all the Democrats. So there were a lot of reasons why Biden was picked as vice president. None of these reasons had anything to do with the scandals. Now the laptop issue and other issues started. Right when Joe Biden became vice president. Do you think, ladies and gentlemen, that this is all a coincidence? Do you think maybe President Obama is a part of saying, okay, we've had enough with this person being technically the most powerful person in the Democratic Party, Biden, without Democrats saying, okay, we've had enough. We have a recession coming up. We have investigations and an impeachment based on Hunter's laptop, then we have classified documents that they almost certainly knew about. His attorneys immediately went to the DOJ, but his attorneys also worked for Clinton and President Obama. So it's the system, the Democratic machine, turning on a president. But nothing gets done without President Obama's approval. The way the political machine works in the Democratic Party. It's not only seniority and rank, but it's also the most popular, the most powerful. He is by far the most powerful Democrat, President Obama. He is now turning on Biden. This is pretty obvious. And we'll explain. Other publications. It's interesting to think that Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, President Obama, they don't have it. It's very bizarre. I find it very peculiar that America's political establishment does not see these individuals as powerful players within the Democratic Party. But that's not the way. That's not the way things work. Now, the rebuttal will be there's no evidence. You don't know any evidence? Well, there was no evidence. A lot of organizations don't just write a letter saying we want this to happen. Tell everybody else to be on board. The agents of Bureau doesn't the Federal Bureau of Investigation didn't do that with Comey and Strzok, and all of them. Okay. And McCabe and all of them. He has attorneys, one or two, a bunch in particular that used to work for President Obama, okay. These attorneys also understand that Hillary Clinton had private servers with top-secret intel on them. Nobody knows how the top-secret intel was transferred onto those servers. That's another thing I find peculiar. Nobody really cares. I don't even care either. My point, though, is, it is just so bizarre. And I don't understand how you have all of these writers and reporters of The Washington Post, The New York Times, and CNN and MSNBC, and even at Fox, if President Obama is the most powerful Democrat, and Biden's presidency is collapsing before our very eyes. He probably along with Hillary and Bill and others, and maybe fundraisers, maybe donors also have had enough of mashed potato brains. He probably had a great deal to do with it. We know that. And you can speculate based on the articles that I read, it's very logical to make that assumption or to speculate in that manner. Okay. I haven't seen President Obama defend Biden, but he did defend Hillary Clinton. I haven't seen Adam Schiff defend Biden, but he defended Hillary Clinton. I haven't seen anyone defend Biden on the Democratic Party, and they all defended Hillary Clinton, and what Hillary did was 10 trillion times worse than what Biden did. Both their crimes. Actually, what Trump did is not a crime. We know that because the Supreme Court ruled the president can declassify anything as commander-in-chief, and they knew where Trump got those documents. He was president that he transferred them from the Oval Office to Mar-a-Lago. They didn't indict him. It was an indictable offense. Furthermore, it wasn't even an offense. They were negotiating with the National Archives. He's allowed to do that. With it, then they say, well, it's obstruction of justice. He didn't tell the truth to the National Archives. Well, he told both the National Archives and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, he declassified everything, then they have to prove now he didn't declassify, but they still just want to torment him. They could declassify anything, as President Biden cannot be classified his Senate material, probably his vice president material also. But if he was the original person to classify them, then he could declassify, but he was senator from the late 70s to 2009. So you do the math on that, you know how many classified records are floating around his different residence. Hunter probably had access to all of them. And then you have the laptop and graft and bribery schemes. They know. Do you think President Obama and Hillary Clinton know that this presidency would have collapsed even before the special counsel? Do you think they don't know that the Republicans are right about to impeach him on criminal behavior felonies? It doesn't matter. Now. See, they don't want a whole year and a half of the Washington Post and New York Times saying, well, Trump is worse, Trump is worse. Trump is worse. Nobody wants to hear that anymore. And Trump isn't worse. So they know that Biden, just without them turning on him, would tank the entire Democratic Party. Okay, because we're going into a recession also. And like I said, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Trump voter, it doesn't matter who you are. God bless you. Green Party, Socialist Communist. God bless you. Thank you for watching. If you watch this long, but ladies and gentlemen, President Obama, as the most powerful Democrat, almost certainly has a great deal of input, didn't really have a great relationship with Biden, and now is along with Hillary and others saying, you know what? We would much rather have Vice President Harris. Take the presidency Biden right off into the sun. Said Democrats don't have to defend Biden for 2 more years. They spent since 2019 defending Biden. It's a lost cause. Because everybody knows now he's corrupt. And he committed crimes. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel. Right now we know that he committed these felonies because the New York Post was completely. You had 51 intel officials say yeah, and then they were all wrong, of course. And the New York Post was censored. And then they impeached Trump for the audacity of asking to investigate Biden, which is what Democrats have done with other countries with Trump. Okay, they use the Steele dossier emanating from another country. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Of course, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course, possibly subscribe if you're up for it. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.